All right, in this lesson, we'll be expanding our knowledge of exponent rules and moving into the product to a power rule. So again, I'm going to encourage you, what does it mean? When in doubt, write it out. You will do this over and over again so that you don't just rely on memorization of rules that you know will go away. So this one, 5a cubed b, that entire quantity squared. I want to figure out, first of all, what is that asking? Well, this means I'm taking this whole thing, 5a cubed b, and multiplying it by itself, 5a cubed b. And kind of like we talked about before, this is all just one big multiplication problem. 5 times a cubed times b times 5 times a cubed times b. And if it makes it easier for you, you can reorder it however you want. Like you could do 5 times 5 times a cubed times b. And you might know the rules from there, or you might even go further and say, hey, well, that a cubed, I remember it's a times a times a, and this a cubed is a times a times a, and then try to simplify it out as much as you can. Well, here, 5 times 5, well, that's 25. A times a times a times a times a times a is a to the 6th, and b times b is b squared. So 5a cubed b, that quantity squared, simplifies to 25a to the 6th b squared. All right, let's look at the official rule. I hope that you're going to notice before we look at the rule that this squared, we really ended up squaring everything. We squared the 5 to get 25. We squared a cubed to get a to the 6th. And we squared b to get b squared. The product to a power rule states this. It says if you're taking the quantity ab to the power of n, that equals the same thing as a to the n times b to the n. So when you're taking a product to a power, you can distribute the exponent to each factor in the product. All right, I'd like to look at a few more examples. So this first one, 3xy to the 4th. Again, you could do when in doubt, write it out. 3xy times 3xy times 3xy times 3xy. Or you can attempt to apply that product rule that we just learned. So what I'm going to be allowed to do is take this 4 and distribute it to each factor in this product. So I'm going to have 3 to the 4th times x to the 4th times y to the 4th. Typically, since we know what 3 to the 4th is, we would multiply that out, 3 times 3 times 3 times 3, and get 81 x to the 4th, y to the 4th. All right, let's look at a harder one. So in this one, we have the quantity negative 2x cubed y to the negative 4 all being squared. Okay, let's try it. Let's try distributing this 2 exponent to each piece. Okay, so here, the first one, we do negative 2 squared. And then I have x cubed being squared. And then I have y to the negative 4 all being squared. And we're going to need to think about how to simplify each of these terms. Well, negative 2 squared, that's just negative 2 times negative 2, so that's 4. X cubed squared, if you don't remember that, you could just do x cubed times x cubed. And again, remember that it's x times x times x times x times x times x. This is x to the 6th. But if you remember that you could just multiply the exponents here, that would be obviously quicker. And so now I remember I can multiply the exponents when I'm taking here y to the negative 4th all being squared. So that's y to the negative 8. Again, remember it's not too typical to leave that negative exponent. So we're dealing with the reciprocal. We would usually take this y to the negative 8 and think of it as 1 over y to the 8th. If I'm multiplying 4 times x to the 6th times 1 over y to the 8th, our best format would be 4x to the 6th all over y to the 8th. All right, let's have you try a couple on your own. So I would love you to try these two and then come back and see if you're able to get them correct. So make sure you pause the video and then come back and watch. All right, this first one, 6mn to the 5th all to the 3rd. I'm going to do this kind of shorthand way. So I'm taking 6 to the 3rd, m to the 3rd, and n to the 5th to the 3rd. 6 to the 3rd is 216, m to the 3rd is already simplified. N to the 5th to the 3rd is n to the 15th. Simplified expression was 216 m cubed n to the 15th. All right, let's try b. So I'm going to take this 4, distribute it to each part. I'm going to have negative 4 to the 4th. then x to the negative 4 to the fourth, and then y to the fifth to the fourth. Simplifying that down, negative 4 to the fourth means negative 4 times negative 4 times negative 4 times negative 4. That's going to give me 256. X to the negative fourth to the fourth is x to the negative 16. Remember, I'm going to typically call that 1 over x to the 16. And y to the fifth all to the fourth is y to the 20th. So if I multiply 256 times x to the negative 16 times y to the 20th, and I do my fractions, I could put these over 1 if I want to. I'm a little lazier like that, usually. I'm going to have 256 y to the 20th all over x to the 16. All right, some pretty tough stuff when you're putting it all together. It's always going to save you if you can, when in doubt, write it out.